Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 2nd Legislative Committee meeting for the town of Vegreville. Mayor McPhee is away. I am the deputy mayor, so I'll be running this meeting as best I can in his absence. So first, we'd like to call this meeting to order. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, adopt the agenda. So we'll have a motion to adopt the agenda. That's Councillor Warawa. All those in favor? Probably did that a little backwards, but carried. Next up is to adopt the minutes of our last legislative meeting. Let's take a motion for that. Councillor Barry makes that motion. Any errors or omissions in the minutes? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. So first up today we have a delegation from the Vegreville Learning Society. So I'll call up Jessica Fenner and Dave Albrecht, please.
For inviting me. Yes. My name is Jessica Fenner. I am the new Executive Director for Vegreville Learning Society. Thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak on behalf of my amazing organization, that this wonderful resource in your beautiful town, Vegreville Learning Society. I've been involved in education for the past 17 years and believe strongly in the value education brings to individuals as well as the community itself. And Vegreville Learning Society has been doing just that in your community since 1975. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about who and what Vegreville Learning Society is all about, what our goals are for the coming year, as well as what we have been doing this past fiscal year as well. Please also know that I am available for any questions or clarifications you may need, and our doors are always open to referrals and any type of idea sharing. So if anyone ever has some great ideas that in education that you think that we should be interested in or check out, we're always open to any type of opportunities. So a little bit about our history. So since 1975, Vegreville Learning Society has been dedicated to promoting lifelong learning among adults in the town of Vegreville and the county of Minburn. We strive to offer accessible, flexible, and affordable learning opportunities, removing barriers to education. Vegreville Learning Society is an Alberta registered society providing a community adult learning program, also known as KELP for short. In 2004, we officially took on our Vegreville Learning Society name. So our mission is that adults in our community will acquire the working, business, and literacy skills to contribute to our community, our economic and social growth. So our actual objectives are creating accessibility of learning opportunities will be created, especially for those with social needs or barriers to learning. Opportunities to acquire important foundational skills such as basic literacy, English language will be provided to all. Gaps in education, training, and learning will be closed, and volunteers and other resources will be mobilized to support of learning. Individual and community problems will be solved through the coordinated learning initiatives. So just as a general overview, we are a not-for-profit society, and we are also managed by a governing board of directors. Our primary source of funding is from the Alberta Ministry of Advanced Education's Community Adult Learning Program. As I said before, short form is KELP. And so we have three basic umbrellas of learning opportunities we provide. So our main and most important one is what we would call foundational learning. So that is our main umbrella. So that would be things like teaching basic literacy, numeracy, ability to use basic digital technology, English language, and basic skills for learning. So that's everything from some basic math skills, basic English skills, and digital literacy is a very big umbrella, and it can be everything from learning how to turn a computer on to learning how to use basic things that sometimes we take for granted, like how do we email? How do we remove ourselves, unsubscribe from mailing lists? How do we use Microsoft Word? Like all these things that many of us use on a daily basis. Not everyone necessarily has that skill set, and somebody might be an absolutely amazing employee, but then they can't necessarily utilize technology. because it's a newer thing for them, or they might not have had that opportunity. So we can provide all sorts of learning opportunities about that through those pieces. So we also have what's called community capacity building. So the main goal of community capacity building is that it should be a vehicle to get people into doing that foundational learning. So that could be something like we did a newcomer workshop a couple months ago, teaching about accessing healthcare services and pieces like that. So the goal for that workshop, why it falls under community capacity building, is because we are servicing the community and offering an opportunity, but the goal would be that if any of those participants might need a little bit of extra something, whether it be English language learning classes, or maybe they need a little bit of digital literacy, then we're able to go, yeah, actually, now that you feel safe and comfortable in our environment, maybe now you might want to register for some other programs. We also do, under the KELP learning model, is we actually do invigilation for KELP exams. So what that would be what used to be known as a GED. So if you do not have your high school diploma, this is actually the vehicle to get what's called a high school diploma equivalency. So that technically falls under the community capacity building umbrella. So if somebody is interested in getting their high school equivalency, then they could potentially come and join us. And under the foundational learning umbrella, we can teach them some of those basic literacy skills, math skills, science, all of those pieces that get them ready and prepared to work towards doing their exams to get their equivalency. So there's lots of different types of trades and different pieces out there that people cannot access that employment opportunity until they have either the high school diploma or an equivalency. So by going through us, we're able to offer that support. If you go on your own independently, the fees can be quite high for an independent person to take care of that, and they're not going to have that support. Where if they go through an organization like ours, we're able to support them every step of the way as they're moving along. And they also get a really big discount because we cover the cost of the majority of that process. Because we want to make sure that the individuals in our community are getting every type of opportunity that they can, and fees should never be a barrier for someone to have access to education. We also have what's called our general interest umbrella, so that is everything else. So the reason why we only offer specific types of programs is if we offer something like, say, first aid, which is a pretty popular program that we have. It's something that's important that the community has access to, especially because being a rural community, you don't always necessarily have access to the same opportunities that are in larger cities. That we offer those opportunities, except they need to cover the cost of themselves, because being a not-for-profit and charging little to no fees, the fees have to come from somewhere. So something like a general interest program like first aid, we charge the fees on behalf of the facilitator, someone pays for those fees, and then it covers the cost of itself, and it doesn't cost Vegman Learning anything because our KELP funding does not cover general interest stuff. So, moving on to the next slide as well. Just a little nod to our board of directors. We have some amazing volunteers that come and join us once a month and do all sorts of other things to support us. And as being a not-for-profit, you are required to have a board of directors to support you and make sure that you are doing all the things that you are supposed to be successfully. So, next slide as well. So our goals for the coming year, our mission is to provide, as I said, adults in our community with opportunities to fill their educational gaps, and as a result, supporting the community's economic and social growth. To support our objectives during the next funding cycle, we are focused on three main goals. So it's increasing awareness, community collaboration, and doing a needs assessment. So for increasing awareness, our goal is to actually work closely with local governments, businesses, and other community organizations to increase awareness and increase participation, and promoting through attendances at local events, meeting business owners, and through social media. So you guys allowing me to participate in this event today, I really appreciate it because it gives me an opportunity to tell you all about our organization, what we do, and then hopefully as a trickle effect kind of pass that information along to other people you bump into, either personally or professionally. So our goal is to participate in lots of different activities that kind of create awareness, because if no one knows what we're doing, then no one's going to be able to come through our doors and get access to that education. So community collaboration, our goal is to work really closely with community organizations, offering insights and supports where we can. For example, there's a really great youth program that's going to be starting here in Vegreville, which is super amazing. So we are actually going to be participating in a little team building idea throwing around session next week because, again, we participate in education. Our mandate is 18 plus. We do not work with youth. However, there are some pretty cool opportunities potentially that we could use, such as I'm thinking about doing a digital literacy program where we partner with some of the amazing senior programs that are in the area, and they have access to some pretty smart, technologically efficient young people that potentially we could make a partnership and support each other. Youth get experience volunteering in the community and learning how to work with others, and seniors get an opportunity to learn how to use all of these digital technology pieces without having to wait for one individual person like myself to do. So it's a win-win on both sides. So that community collaboration is really super important that we really want to work on. And it also offers opportunities for potentially referring clients to us as well. Maybe we know that generational poverty and generational trauma and different things like that exist in all parts of society. So if there are youth that are struggling and really need support from the youth center, it's a very good possibility that potentially their parents or even grandparents are struggling with some of these generational pieces too. So we could potentially be able to refer those parents to our programs as well. So even though we're not working directly with the youth, we can still support ourselves and each other through organizations. Our next goal is working on a needs assessment. So to better support the community of Vegreville, we intend on facilitating a professional needs assessment, an assessment that can be accessed by organizations in the community. We can draw focus on the social needs in the community and ultimately improve the quality of life for residents in Vegreville. The assessment would look at population demographics, how services and amenities are actually accessed in the community, health indicators, employment statistics, mental health, education, and so much more. We as a community would need to collaborate on this project to ensure the information is accurate and complete, and sharing the results to better our community and potentially share cost. I've heard there's a lot of really great resources in the community in regards to different data gathering pieces. There's quite a few of them, which I have already had some really great pieces of information passed along to me, and I'm going to keep asking those questions. As someone who is newer to the community, I want to know as much as I can to make sure the programs that we are offering are the right programs for the right people. That's really important, and we even have the right types of programs being administered by the right types of people. So doing a needs assessment is a way to kind of gather all of the data in one place that everyone can access whenever they need to make sure, again, are there areas where we can collaborate? Are we offering the right programs in the right areas? Is there different barriers that are being faced, not just financial ones, but transportation ones, or what types of barriers are in place? And then connecting to the individual people. So, next slide. So the next few slides, I'm just going to quickly go through just some of the programs that we offered this past year, just to kind of give you some actual examples of what types of programs fall under the umbrellas I was talking about. So we have our first few are in regards to foundational learning. So the Learning Circle is something we've offered the last several years, and we will continue to offer this year as well. So the Learning Circle is a program intended to foster inclusion through educational activities for adults with developmental disabilities. So we have some really great participants that actually come from Valid. So we do two different types of programs. So there's a literacy program, which is intended to increase or maintain reading and comprehension ability, basic writing skills, presentation skills, and also we participate in the Reader's Theater, which is a lot of fun and I'm looking forward to. We also focus on numeracy pieces, working on basic math skills such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, currency, and time, and some of the pieces around this as well too. Even though it's foundational learning, we are not sitting and doing worksheets. We are doing fun activities, so that they are learning while they're participating and they're enjoying themselves, because studies show that individuals who are enjoying themselves and they are teaching and participating are more likely to retain that information than if you're sitting at a desk with a worksheet, because that's not fun. So next slide. So digital skills. So some of the pieces that we did this past year. So as I was saying with the basic digital literacy skills, it's the ability of individuals to understand and use digital systems, tools, and applications and networks in order to access and manage information and thrive in learning, the workplace, and in daily life. So we have 5 different really big pieces that we kind of did this past year. So 2 of our important pieces were actually fraud and scam information sessions. So the first one was just kind of get a feel in the community. They hosted us at the Sunshine Club, which was awesome. And we just talked a little bit about online safety and recognizing what fraud or scams kind of look like. And we had quite a decent turnout for that event. So we ended up running another actual workshop that was a lot more intensive to talk about exactly how do you spot those, what are some red flags, what do you do after you are a victim of fraud, and then also talking about fraud and scams in regards to like even the mail and telephone, because there's some pretty scary ones that are out there that can trick anybody at any time. So we had a good turnout for that one as well. We did a lot of one-on-one digital tutoring. So we did that at our Vegreville location, which is, in case you didn't know, just right over there, a 2-minute walk. We actually went to the lodge and we offered one-on-one tutoring with the residents there. They were able to just come and ask questions, or we offered different examples of some things that they could learn. And we also included our walk-ins. So that would be any individual at any time is welcome to come on in and just ask us questions, and we can support them on things. Somebody got their new phone and they couldn't log into their email anymore. I don't know, please help me do this on Gmail. I don't know how to make it happen on my new phone. So we could support them with even something as simple as that. We also did 2 programs that were a little bit more specific, such as Google Sheets and Google Basics. And that was actual programs that we facilitated at certain dates and times. And we had some participants come in and learn some of those pieces. Next slide. Our English language learning classes. So we offered 4 different types of activities in regards to supporting people with basic English language learning. And that was everything from one-on-one tutoring to we did evening tutoring here in a group just over at our location every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, starts today. And we did it in 5 different sessions. We have a volunteer that does the exact same thing out in Manville at the library that's there as well. Next slide. And this is talking a little bit about the Canadian Adult Education Credential. So again, the CAIC, which is what you actually call the exam invigilation and the actual testing that we do. We included in these numbers the actual preparation for it, foundational math and science classes, and different pieces like that. So we offer all sorts of different pieces to support people in getting their credentials. These are just showing the amazing volunteers that we had. We had up to almost 250 hours worth of volunteer time that was contributed over the past year, which is amazing, and we really appreciate everything that our volunteers do. And learner supports. So we facilitated almost 150 hours worth of learner supports last year. So that would be individuals just walking into our organization, everything from printing documents to learning how to use our computers to emailing, job searching, virtual trainings, any need to access technology, even things like I have a test that I have to do for work, but I don't have a computer or internet at home, and I don't even know how to log in to do that. So they can come and sit and join us and have access to all those pieces, or even help us. We're able to support them kind of to facilitate that training. Next slide. And this is just some of our general interest pieces. So this would be things that aren't covered under the KELP funding model, but we like to offer to the community because it's something that we've been asked to do, and we have a facility to do that. But they have to cover the costs of themselves. So something like the first aid, for example, as well as the Canadian Firearm Safety course, we've offered those as well too, because again, they can cover the cost of themselves. And we did do learner license prep before, but again, because we are 18 plus, it's not really within our funding model to be able to offer that, even though we would like to support individuals in doing so. It's more successful for another organization that focuses on that age group to be able to facilitate that. And that's me. So thank you very much for allowing us to for me to talk with you guys today.
Thank you, Jessica, for coming and presenting. Just to see if anybody has any questions or any comments. Councillor Raw.
Well, thank you very much. I actually thought that I knew all the programs that you offered, but clearly I don't. And now that I know the good work you're doing with some login, I am probably the worst here when it comes to technology and constantly harassing here, so I might be coming to see you. But I just wanted to make a comment on a couple. I was really happy to hear some of the work with, particularly with seniors. I know that in my day job, there's a lot of frustration with so many things becoming required to be online. Maybe not even just seniors, but even maybe some people that are a little bit older in age that have never had to do things like the mandatory GST filing on side. And it's frustrating because a lot of them used to encourage you towards the online, and now a lot of them are just mandatory and there's no way around it. So really good to see that program, as well as talking to them about the fraud. And I think it's going to get worse with more AI. It's getting very, very hard to identify the fraud. I mean, we've had items within our own where we're sending back to other members of parliament, asking them if it actually came from them, because that's how good some of the stuff looks. So I think the more we can educate people to look back and reach out to the original sources, best. So my question, I did actually have one in there, sorry. I know that you mentioned doing a lot of language training. Are you finding with newcomers that it's more generalized training towards work, or are you finding that they're maybe coming to you to prepare like for some of the IRCC, like the immigration literacy exams? I'm just kind of wondering what you're having there, because that component for the language skills is becoming a lot harder, and it seems like they're tightening up quite a bit on it.
So far it's been a lot of like conversational pieces and things like that, and just kind of getting the basics down. We have had conversations about potentially being able to not just facilitate the actual testing piece, but kind of getting those pieces prepared and ready to go. But we're not quite at that point. We've been very fortunate the last 2-3 years to have some really great individuals be willing to teach English language, because we don't always necessarily have access to individuals who are willing to do that based on the budget that we have. But we definitely want to move towards being able to support individuals to apply for their citizenship and be able to do that piece where you prove that you speak English. That's definitely something we want to do. So far, it hasn't been too employment focused, but that's definitely something that it has come up a few times where businesses have mentioned that they have an employee who's amazing. Maybe they're a machinist at I'm using a very specific example, but a machinist at their organization, and they're amazing at their job, but the language has become a really big barrier for them to be able to move up in the field of employment that they're in. So in those sorts of scenarios, when an employer reaches out to us, we could potentially be able to say, okay, well, what do they need specific support for? Oh, English language learning, please send them to register for our program. We want to make sure that they're participating in something like that, because we're able to give that one-on-one attention. And it's we do like say a $50 charge for 8 weeks, which is 16 sessions. And like we said, fees should never be a barrier to education. So if that's something that they can't necessarily afford, we can waive those fees because we're intended to support them. So we do want to encourage employees to actually send their employees, or employers to send their employees to come and get support from us. And even like how you said, working with seniors and pieces, if you know of a group of seniors that's really interested in learning a specific, like they really want to know more about email or using Excel or something like that, we can also specifically design a program that's going to support that group or that individual to get that next level of what they're interested in. Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Rudick.
Thank you very much. No, it is. Sorry. Thank you very much, Jessica, for presenting, and I think everybody here can feel why Vegman is very excited to have you here. We're very happy to have the former executive director, Dave Albrecht, here, who is here in a supporting role in transitioning as Jessica comes to full force, but really excited to have you here, new to the community, but with your energy. I'm already seeing that you're making great relationships and understanding the opportunities, and I think as one of the larger employers, Vegreville, the town of Vegreville has lots of opportunity to be able to work with you, and the community does as well. I just wanted to also make recognition for one of the longtime board members that passed away this year that many would be aware of, Al Rusnick, who was a board member for Vegman for over 9 years, passed away this year, but he was one of the firearm instructors, so many people that would have had their PAL would have taken classes from Al, so I just wanted to make sure we had our AGM last week and just wanted to recognize that he has passed and wanted to acknowledge his contribution to the community and also acknowledge that we've got a strong team in Dave and Jessica leading what's happening at Vegman, and encourage anybody that's an employer looking for adult learning opportunities to make sure that they reach out, because we have a great opportunity to be able to continue to grow in the way that the community needs to. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you a lot, Jessica. I do have a couple things to say. Like for your goals, I think they're perfect. They're directed to the point, and the fact that you're reaching out to other organizations who have some of that needs assessment information and not reinventing the wheel, I think is great, because there's a lot of good information that's been gathered in the past. So I think that's awesome, and the collaboration portion is awesome. So thank you again for showing up and presenting here, and hopefully we can get the word out through our meetings, and then you can keep moving along with your social media and other campaigns. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so next up, we have a quarterly progress report, and we'll start with Dan Kuzmic, Parks and Recreation and Facilities Manager.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As usual, I'll just jump right into this. Q3 update. Our first one we have is our chemical storage cabinet. That is actually in progress. I should have changed that, my bad. We have the cabinet, we received it, we installed it. We're just waiting for the ventilation to be hooked up on it. So should come in under budget. I'm gonna say probably another $3,000 added to that by the time the ventilation gets added, but overall it'll still come in under budget. Moving right along, we have our security system upgrade. That is in progress. Started in July, should be done by the end of this month. And that is right on budget price, so. Got upgraded most of our systems, as you all know, in our social center. Some new cameras around some of our buildings. And next budget I'll put a few more cameras in at the remaining buildings and areas, so. Again, this one was completed a while ago. The ceiling fans, sorry. Again, came in a little bit under budget, so ahead of the game there too. Sprayer replacement, that is complete. It was completed in Q2. Came in a couple $100 under budget as well. Triple deck mowers, again, it was completed last quarter, but just going over it real quickly. It's right on the exact budget to what we put in. I think we saved a couple $100, but yeah.
Just wondering, when is the lease up on those?
So we did those for 3 years. So it'll be that amount for the next following 2 budgets. And finally, I'll just give you an update on our social center. You can see by the little printout that I included in there. Social center upgrades that are planned for this year, the installation of a grease trap, which we need to get in there, or we'll have our own plumbing issues down the road. Stainless steel needs to be insulated behind the ovens and the burners and the dishwasher. That replaces all our broken tile that we replace every couple of years, and it's also in compliance with Alberta health and safety requirements. So. Plan is to upgrade our countertops in the back area and the storage areas. So you know those ugly curtains that we have on our counters, I'd like to get those replaced and new countertops as well. Most of the budget this year that you guys gave me will be done in the back area because that's the one that's used most. We're going to purchase new cooking utensils, pots, pans, serving trays. Got to resurface our dishwasher, stoves, and ovens and all the appliances. That'll be the second time we redid them or rehad them serviced. The plan is to do it annually or biannually, get them at least serviced twice a year, so it prolongs the life of them. Due to the busy rental season, we haven't yet started these projects, but as the season starts to die down now, we get between September and October, it's pretty slow just before the holiday season fires back up. So we'd like to get all this completed before the end of October at the latest. So. Parks and Green Places enhancement, he also gave me a good chunk of money to be doing that, so I'll give you a little update on there. We've ordered all the soil and crushed rock required for our planned projects this year. Again, we've cleaned and enhanced trees and flower beds at the Pasanka Park along the trails between the pond and the hospital. We do got to put a little bit of crushed rock down there yet. We've replaced the soil and reseeded the berms along Highway 16 by Walmart and, between Walmart and the Pasanka Plaza. We've removed and trimmed dead trees between the Garden Center Inn and the CPC apartments. So far this year, we still got other flower beds and stuff planned to clean up. So we plan to update the Horvat Park and North Circle Drive green spaces, clean up all those flower beds, get rid of the dirt, put down some nicer grass or gravel, and place some new trees at those parks too as well. So that is my quarterly 3 update.
Thank you very much, Dan. Any questions or comments? Not everybody at once. Councilor Rudick.
I wanted to go back to the security upgrades. We've had quite a marked increase in vandalism, the costs, et cetera. So can you just do a little bit, for those that don't watch every one of our meetings, can you do a little bit of an explanation of where things are at there again?
For the security cameras themselves or for our vandalism? I'll give you a little bit of both.
Potentially, yeah.
If you'd
I'll give you, I think it's probably great to have both of those kind of feed together because I don't know that everybody is fully aware of what a challenge it is and how much of a cost it is to everybody in the community and how important it is to be able to have that eyes and ears everywhere.
Perfect. So I'll touch on our security first. So the buildings we've upgraded this year are the landfill and public works and the cemetery. Those buildings were broken in 3 or 4 times last year. And we're just trying to put cameras and a security system to hopefully catch or deter people from doing that. Other than general upgrade to our keypads and everything around all our other buildings, that's been pretty much it for the security. Plan is for next year to add a few more in to help with our vandalism. I'd like to put a camera along the library back wall, maybe facing toward our spray park. And that Pirate Park seems to be one of the higher vandalism spots this year. I don't have all the builds in so far, but I'm gonna guess through all our parks, and that park alone, it's gonna be upwards of $15,000 to $22,000 this year again. And of course, those are unbudgeted items that we have to replace. A lot of those parts are specialty parts. So, for example, they undid a bunch of bolts on one of the swing sets and replaced them with a different bolt. Ended up cutting a young child. We had to take those swing sets down and order specialty bolts, and those bolts cost like $3,500 just for 3 bolts. But that's what needs to go back into that kind of equipment. Lots of damage to our slides. They either burn them or melt their plastic, so we got to recap them, replace that. The rubber matting that we have at our parks, people like to kick little holes in them. Even a hole, say, a foot squared, it's going to be roughly about $35,000 to $4,000 to replace that little patch. So, you know, it's an ongoing issue. It seems to be during summer we get our highest vandalism, and the school's back in. I'm expecting those numbers to slowly decrease. So. There are a few other locations that we would like to put cameras in, and you'll see that in the upcoming budget. One, again, was mentioned, the library. The other is around the arena and our parks building, and that should cover the majority of our buildings.
Follow-up question?
Thank you. Thanks for that update and appreciate that it's an ongoing process to provide the tools to be able to do all those things. I actually have 2 compliments and 1 question related to your area. So I'd asked off camera about originally we were going to have an orchard opening and it was canceled due to the smoke in the air, and unfortunately here we are back in smoke in the air. But I did have some questions about that opening, and also feedback from a member of the public that uses the dog park regularly, loves it, wishes there was another one on their side of town, but had picked choke cherries and made dog park choke cherry syrup and wanted to know if that was okay. I said the choke cherries are free for the picking, but wondered where our orchard is at.
Our orchard, yeah, we should have a grand opening. I know Leslie and myself were talking about it. We're just waiting for schools to get back in, so maybe in the fall again here. Try to shoot again and have a big grand opening. It would be awesome to do. We don't want to lose the fact, and you know, to me, that's a potential area that we can actually grow quite big. as I did mention, I'd like to move our community gardens there eventually, and we maybe put a little gazebo there down the road and make that a general nice spot for everybody to use, right?
Councillor Robert?
Well, actually, thank you, Councillor Rudick, for that question, because, I think we've all had or seen outreach regarding vandalism, so it is really important to remind people that when often you might be seeing something that's closed or taped off for a while, it isn't for the town not wanting it opened or having it maintained and ready to go. These aren't regular maintenance issues. These are direct vandalism issues. So I think it's important to get that update. I just had one question, and thank you for the updates on the social center. I just was noting where you had about the servicing of the dishwasher, stoves, and ovens. Obviously, the one council is the most familiar with will be the stoves for the times that we cook on there. I'm just wondering, some of the issues that there's been before, would you say that they are generalized just age and are just going to be requiring that, 2 times a year maintenance? Or do you think that it's now maybe a little bit because of not maintaining them on regular and you have that in now? Just kind of trying to figure out how close we are to end of life versus being able to maintain a few of those things.
Right. I think down the road, maybe 5-6 years, we'll have to replace them. But by maintaining them and doing our proper maintenance that I don't think was being done on them, I'm not a professional, I'm not a gas fitter, but that kind of stuff needs to be bringing the right people in to service our equipment, and we're gonna gain a lot more life out of our stuff. And that's pretty much what we do with all of our equipment and stuff. If we don't know, we bring the experts in, our HVAC systems, our air conditionings. Our local guys are good, but people specialize in that, and those are the people we need to bring in to make sure I'm giving you the right information when we have to replace them, and we can extend the life of each of those. Preventative maintenance is a big thing.
That'll be all for questions. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rudick, did you have another question?
Sorry, I was gonna pose this question later, but you're here now, so I'll ask this. Do we know where the camera situation is at the Prairie Tales facility? Because there have been some more negative interactions on social media, and want to make sure that those tireless volunteers get the support that we can from.
Can definitely give you an update on those. We purchased them cameras out of our budget, and they had them installed by one of their people. So their cameras should be up and running. It's not part of our system. It's on their own independent system. So all the time, our Wi-Fi was good enough, our stuff was really good, but their current cameras they had were lacking in what they needed to do. So when we had the big Amazon sale, we purchased them some good cameras, saved us some money, and they had them installed.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. And I did hear another compliment. This is the compliment too, is that I had somebody who's not from the community. A lot of us here get the negative comments about the social center and things that they're not happy with. This person was thrilled and wanted to make sure that our staff and employees were aware of what a valuable place it is to the region and how helpful your staff were in terms of navigating a big event. And they were really thrilled and wanted us to know.
Perfect. I'll definitely pass that on. That's one of our goals. We want that repeat business, so customer service has to be there. Also, for everybody out there listening, if you see any vandalism or anything wrong with our parks, green spaces, playground equipment, let me know. We can't catch everything, and the more eyes, the better. It's not complaining. If we can't fix it if we don't know it's broken, right? So please reach out.
Thanks, Dan. Any other questions? I just have one more. Do we see a reduction in vandalism at the Splash Park bathrooms when we started closing it early?
Inside the washrooms, yeah. Outside, no.
Okay.
They've broken all the door handles the last 2 times. I just got another $700 bill to replace broken handles, broken bolts. Just like 3 times trying to smash into all our storage places or actually get into where our pump systems are. So I think by putting cameras out there, again, we do have a trail cam, but everybody looks the same. Black hoodie and the hood up. It's hard to tell. But if we actually put cameras maybe facing off the library building and get a better quality, we'll be able to start hopefully catching or at least getting people not to do that kind of damage to our stuff. So
What about one on the actual washroom? And is it too short of a building to put one that's
We
not
can
gonna get,
probably stick them there. My worry is it doesn't have a Wi-Fi connection now, so it's a whole nother new cost, but there are different ways of doing it, so can definitely look into that. It'd be nice to have one or two around there too. But people then would have to know we're monitoring them as well, right?
all right, thank you very much, Dan.
Well, thank you, guys.
So used to turning my mic off all the time. Next up on the quarterly reports is Manager Mitch Newton for Protective Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here today to provide the quarterly progress reports for the projects that we were put in place for the 2025 budget. Starting off with our new Engine 1 equipment upgrade. We have received all the items to date and everything is in service. Unfortunately, our battery-operated fans are still waiting from the manufacturer to get here. Last we heard, it would have been at the end of August, but with the long weekend, nobody's answering our emails or phone calls, so we assume we'll be getting a phone call early this week here and to confirm where they're standing. Replacement hose. We have received all the hose that needed to be replaced for all our engines and tenders, and they have been tested and they have been put in place onto the truck. So we're on that, and moving forward on an ongoing basis, we'll add a little bit into the operating budget to ensure that we don't need a large replacement again. The PPE reallocation, we have received most of our stuff on service and placed into service. We're still waiting on a couple items, new uniforms and the bunker gear. Everything is either been sized or in the process of getting sized or ordered, and we should have everything. We're told probably about early November that everything will be, by the time they get everything custom made and everything. And lastly, the Alberta First Responders Radio Communication, also known as AFRAX. Thanks to two generous donations from Enbridge and TC Energy, we were able to receive an additional funding of $20,000 on top of council, $27,000. So right now everything is on order, everything's on track. With everything, we have updated quotes and everything. We should be sitting around about $24 left in the budget by the time everything is ordered. Once those are received, we have a communications officer now in-house, and they'll be placing those into service.
Excellent, thank you very much, Manager Newton. Questions or comments? Councillor Lemko.
Thanks for that, Manager Newton. As a question, just for the public and also for us council, like how are we looking for our call volume to date going into the third quarter with the volunteers that we have?
We're slower down actually this year compared to the last two service years. We're sitting at 150 calls as of today, and due to the low wildfire season, we're not expecting a large increase right now. I mean, depending on the weather, we may see an increase of motor vehicle collisions, but it's all varying year to year.
I think it's just for the public's information. 150 calls back 10 years ago was almost a good year for the amount of calls, and we're at going into our third quarter, and we've got, or in our third quarter, we've got 150 calls. So that tells us a lot about the dedication it takes from the volunteers of this community to provide that kind of service. So kudos to them, kudos to you and your leadership there.
Thank you, Councillor.
That's all. Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Got off easy today. Okay, up next we have a draft bylaw from the FCSS advisory group for Julie, but I think that CEO Ling will be reading this.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So before you today is a draft FCSS Advisory Board bylaw. So the background on this is that council directed administration to review the current advisory board bylaw with a focus on updating the term limit provisions and considering the evolving realities of a volunteer recruitment and retention in rural communities. During this review, FCSS identified additional sections that have required revisions to reflect the purpose of the advisory board or the realities of the board membership in a rural setting. The proposed changes are outlined below. So the preamble is being updated. They updated the purpose of the board to reflect that they are advisory in nature. Section 2.2 broadened who may sit on our board to ensure community members are not excluded. Section 2.4, subsection 2, remove the requirement for members to take a 1-year leave of absence after sitting for 2 terms to reflect the difficulty of finding board members in a small community. Section 2.8 updated the requirements for forfeiting office to account for the realities of life in an agricultural community. And section 6.2 removed to reflect that our board does not apply for grants on our behalf. So the communication strategy, public engagement process level 1. Once bylaw XX 2025 Family and Community Support Services bylaw is passed, the bylaw will be updated on the Town of Vegreville website and changes will be communicated with the FCSS board, advisory board. So the options before council today are that town council accept the proposed bylaw amendments and complete all 3 readings of bylaw XX 2025 Family and Community Support Services bylaw at the next regular council meeting, or that town council recommend alternative amendments to the draft bylaw prior to completing all 3 readings, or that town council reject the draft bylaw and maintain bylaw 21/2017 as is, or that town council refer the amendments to a committee or advisory board for further review.
Thank you very much, CEO Ling. Any questions or comments? Councillor Barry?
Thank you. As we discussed this some last week, and I think that what change has been made in here would make this a more workable bylaw for them, and it would allow them, as I believe they're interested in having one of their board members be able to take a 3rd term without sitting out for the 1 year. So this would make that possible as well. So I'm comfortable with it.
Good. Everybody else good? Yeah, to me, I know this has been brought up a few times, being on the FCSS board. Hard to get volunteers, hard to get members, so this will be a welcome change. So we'll see it at the council meeting. Up next, we'll go to Director Lefebvre with the IP&D department to discuss discretionary use and variance process policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's correct. Council is to recommend adding this policy to the agenda of the next regular council meeting. As discussed at the regular council meeting held on August 18th, 2025, Planning and Development has prepared a formal policy document to structure the previously informal practices and criteria used by the Development Authority when evaluating and making decisions on applications for discretionary land uses within the town of Vegreville. The implementation of this policy will provide a consistent and transparent framework to guide the Development Authority in the exercise of its professional judgment. By adhering to the criteria outlined in the policy, the Development Authority will ensure they make informed, fair, and consistent decisions regarding discretionary uses and variances, while also aligning with the town's overall planning objectives and legislative requirements. This formalized approach is intended to enhance clarity for potentially affected residents, ensure procedural fairness, and support sound land use planning decisions that align with the community's values and visions. Communication strategy is NA at this point. The options are: one, that council recommends adding this policy, a discretionary use and variance process policy as presented to the agenda of the next regular council meeting, or two, that council requests further review and revision of the discretionary use and variance process policy prior to approval.
Thank you, Director Lefebvre. I'll open it up for questions and comments. Okay. Oh, Councillor Bullock.
Well, reading through this stuff that, and just the part of actually notifying the immediate residents around the place of anything that's going on before it actually proceeds is actually, should be done, and glad to see that it will be happening. So probably notification where it is due, so somebody knows what's happening around them is just important, so I agree with that.
Councillor Warawa.
I can appreciate all the work that's been done, unless I wasn't able to be part of the last discussion because I was away, but I do think that this captures what we were talking about, which was making sure it's very clear to everybody the process and what discretionary is defined as. If I'm looking at page 3, I particularly like the way you guys set that up as far as saying the criteria, the test, and the rationale, because I think that would actually, while I'm sure that was being done for the most part, there probably was some parts that might not have been very clear, like the third one, where how we decide what is considered impacts on neighbors, and including the fact that property values and whatnot is something for consideration versus just, say, traffic disruptions or disruptions to, you know, increased sewer or whatnot. So I do think that this does capture the things that were of concern, and I think it's a fair thing for future people applying as well as for staff to not put them into a position of not knowing what is being set forward. So I appreciate the work that was done on this. Thank you.
Councillor Barry.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a very difficult topic, as we've seen in the past here. And it is not that easy to rectify the situation that discretionary. It's difficult when in some areas you can't really stop some developments because legally they have the right to be able to move forward. I think that what this does is it does give the opportunity to notify affected landowners in the vicinity of a development prior to it taking place so that they can voice their opinions, and that can be discussed a little bit more before the decision is actually finalized. But it often doesn't mean that it would stop the process from being approved. So it's to try and inform the public a little more as the development is going forward rather than them finding out after it has already started to be built or the use changed. And it is a very difficult, under the law, it is a very difficult subject. So I think that this at least tries to be a little more transparent and get information out to the people who reside near the area before it actually occurs. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. Nothing else? Oh, Councillor Rudick.
Yeah, I appreciate that this is a more recently contentious conversation, and I appreciate that there is a desire to do some longer range maybe analysis of the land use bylaw, but taking this and being able to be this responsive to the public, I think is really appropriate, and also making it not a barrier for costs, so that is a consideration too, so that not only is it accessible for those that might be concerned, this allows for a bit of protection for landowners and also some protection for our staff. So I appreciate the thought that went into trying to find a way to be able to meet those concerns and also manage people's expectations. The one question I did have is on the graphic, which I think is really helpful for people to be able to visually see the process, and that's the last page of, sorry, what is the title on the front page here? On the policy. There's one point where it talks about 14 calendar days, and then at the bottom, it says 20 days and 40 days. Are those business days? Are those calendar days? Might just be useful to add that in there, just so that there's consistent usage of what that means, because at the top it says calendar, and it might be good to know if that's, the count starts at what point, just for clarity for anybody that's looking at this, because again, what we're seeking to do is be very specific with our public that we're communicating with and protect everybody's interests. So appreciate the work that you've put into this in being responsive.
Thank you. I did have one other question, just so the public's aware. This comes up, discretionary use, people send in their concerns. We then reply back to their concerns with what we've checked off? Or is it coming in and we have it, but we don't necessarily have to reply back to the public?
That's correct. We do not necessarily have to reply back to the public. What this is doing is getting the discretionary letters from the residents before the notice of decision is sent out. And by looking at the information here, we provide that information to the proponent or the developer. So then he can either address them how he needs to address them, or take that information into consideration for the development itself.
So there's not necessarily where we will go back to the surrounding homes and say, we've received your concerns, here's what we've done to comply with how we will be approving this, and we're gonna move forward with it, or not, or they have a good concern that we would change. It's up to the developer at that point.
It's not up to the developer at that point. The developer can make a decision if he's moving forward with the development or not, based on the information that the residents are providing to the town through this letter of discretionary letter. When they come to us, when the letters come to us in the town, we evaluate them. Then as you see, we've got the policy now that is more formal. We've also then below that, which does not go to council, is the procedure. And the procedure takes the areas that Councilor Rawa was mentioning, and it cuts them down even deeper. So, you know, when we talk about alignment with town policy, it's kind of general, but we list things to consider so that the next person that may come up knows that it's the IDP, the area structure plan, it's the area redevelopment plans. These are things you have to consider when we talk about alignment with town policies. It specifically lists which policies you should be looking at. And that moves down the line even to physical constraints. It's not just about the size of the lots and things. It is about sanitary sewer, it's about water supply, it's about parking requirements, it's about different conditions we want to put on it. So the procedure then, which is we're calling discretionary variance assessment procedure, breaks all these down into little steps so nothing's getting missed. And that information is good. If the public that has provided something says, well, what about these? We can say, well, this is the criteria we've used. This is the procedure and this is the detail that we've gone through to check them off. We have done that in the past, but it's not been publicly shared back with the public, because we have our list of things we basically check the boxes, and that's what we've made now as a formal procedure, as opposed to just standard operating procedure. It is a written procedure approved by admin.
Sure, Councilor Wallace.
Sorry, that was great. It explained actually a couple things I was just wondering on the backside, but just so to confirm, if we were to receive X number of letters, whatever the case may be, of course, we don't disclose to the person who or what we got, just generalize, these were the concerns under categories. Okay, I was just wanted to double check that. I assumed it would be, but you know, because if something goes ahead, it would not necessarily be a situation where necessarily you'd want to identify this specific person was the one, and then they may be your neighbor afterwards. Just to run onto your point though, I guess you're probably thinking more to the lines of like, we've acknowledged that they've received it, but I can kind of see if maybe there could be some consideration for some point at some level if somebody brings something forward and for us to be able to let them know that it did comply, because sometimes they may not realize that something did comply in one of the areas. Of course, the hardest is going to be the third category, as I mentioned, because some of that isn't as easy to measure. And that's definitely where there's going to need to be more review, because one person's opinion about what is enjoyment will be harder than others. But I'm just thinking that there is probably going to be people following up if it was to go ahead, that's gonna want some explanation. But I guess that will kind of be that we direct them back to your department then? Okay, okay.
Awesome, thank you.
And that will be coming up at the, as an RCD for
next
approval at the next regular council meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Director Lefebvre. Up next, we go to the Corporate Services Department. Director Saskew.
Thank you. So I have here a memorandum to council relating to 2026 ATCO franchise fees. I see a little typo there. Our franchise fee agreements with ATCO allows for an annual change to the franchise fee percentage. Vegreville currently has a franchise fee rate of 33% for gas and 10% for electric. If the town wishes to amend the franchise fees, ATCO Gas must receive a request prior to October 31st, and ATCO Electric must receive a request prior to November 1st of this year. The letters received from ATCO outline the projected franchise fee revenues at current rates for 2026. Below is a comparison of 2026 projected revenues to 24 and 25 budget. 2026 projections remain stable, resulting in additional revenue of $20,745 for the town as compared to 2025. And as you can see, they're very comparable year over year. The rates for gas, we are at 33%, and the max rate that we are able to go to is 35%. So that is incremental revenue per percentage of an additional $22,000 or less $22,874 for each percentage we move up or down. And then for ATCO Electric, the current rate we're at is 10%, and the max rate we can choose is up to 20%. And incremental revenue for that for each percentage is $72,934. So the financial implications of this is that the town of Vegreville will budget 2026 franchise fees in accordance with council direction. And this will be an informed level 1 communication strategy. And the options are town council review the ATCO franchise fees projection and provide recommendation for rate changes to administration, or that town council review the ATCO franchise fee projections and approve the recommendation to bring to the next council meeting for adoption with no changes.
Thank you, Director Saskew. I will not be commenting on this as I have a pecuniary interest, but anybody else? Sure, Councilor Rawa.
I just wanted to make sure, I think this is what you said, but the incremental revenue, that is based upon each increase percentage, or?
Yes,
Okay.
each per, yes, so if we
Yeah, each
increase
individual
2%, it would be 140,000. Yes.
Councilor Bullock.
Yeah, looking at that, and just quite simply, I wouldn't want to see any changes moving forward.
Councilor Riddick.
Same. I think we are sensitive to the needs of wanting to be responsive to our citizens. Affordability is a challenge right now. I think we're close to the limit of what people can afford, and we've got a good partnership with ATCO, but we also want to make sure that we're being responsible with the fees that we collect.
Councilor Lemko.
Yeah, I'm status quo. I believe the last few years we've stayed and maintained these numbers, so I'm not willing to move with any changes.
Councilor Barry.
Yes, I'll comment. I agree with everybody else. I think we should stay the same at this point in time.
Councilor Rawa.
I didn't actually say whether I agreed with moving or not, so I should say that I'm good with leaving it as is. Definitely want to be sensitive to needs. I do think, though, that there still should keep in mind some advocacy pieces, not directly to the energy provider, but there has been talk prior at the provincial level about looking at ways to consider some additional funding that goes towards rural communities, because those rates do become higher in rural because of the distance of the lines and whatnot. And unfortunately, then what we see is a small population often bearing those costs due to the distance. So I just want us to note and not lose that I think it's still worthy of some additional, government advocacy towards looking at whether there might be some way to fund additional pockets to the more rural areas.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll see this come forward.
I'll bring it as an RCD for the next meeting.
Excellent. And then you have a variance analysis.
That is correct. If everyone refreshes, my memo is now available, so.
I thought I didn't see that prior.
I was on holidays, and then I had a family emergency on Friday, so there was a little bit of tie up this morning, but we got her done, you guys. So I have here my variance report for the period of January 1st, 2025 to July 31st, 2025. The reason I didn't include August is because it is 2 days past month end, and I'm sure there's some journal entries missing, and sometimes that can skew results if we're looking and we're like, oh, that's really far off. So I went with one that we have the bank reconciled, and so that's where we're gonna start. It's actually nice too, because it's just over half of the year. So it's easy for us to compare. If there's half the budget left or slightly above and below, we're on par for things. So under general government, so the second attachment is the one with all of the colors. And you can see the year-to-date versus of 2024 versus July 31st of 2025 compared to budget. The annual variance is the difference between 2024 year-to-date and July 2025. And then the budget variance is the difference between July 31st, 2025 and the budget. So as noted prior, a negative variance in revenues means that we're missing revenue or haven't received all of our revenue yet. But a negative variance in expenditures is actually a good thing. It means we haven't spent all of our budget yet. And I am super happy to announce that we only have one positive budget variance in the expense line, which I will explain, and it's the very last one that we look at, which is planning and development. So as of in general, everyone is doing really well. We're very close to being on budget as an aggregate for revenues and expenditures, and any of the differences that are large are very easily explained, which are what I'm gonna go through today in my memo. So general government, that's the first one we're looking at. You can see that the annual variance and the budget variance are positive, meaning that we've received more revenue than we should have. Net municipal taxes is total tax revenue collected, and then we deduct the requisition expenditures. So the reason that we're over budget right now is we still have $1.2 million nearly to pay out in school requisitions for the last 2 quarters of the year. So those are scheduled payments, and unless I book them as a receivable, they don't come up in the net revenue, the net property taxes collected. I don't think it's skewing results too much, and it's very easily explained, so I don't book the receivables or the payables because it's just a lot of extra entries for nothing. Government transfers are under budget as LGFF operating payment of a 101-106 has not been yet received. We always receive it around this time of the year, so I'm expecting it in the coming months. I will definitely include that in a cash statement once it is received. Another item to note under general government is that investment income is $265,804 less than prior year. This is due to lower interest rates as well as reduced cash balances for the town. So this is a result of timing of payments for large items such as the force main and prosperity, receipt of grant funds, LGFF and CCBF. Some of those 2024 payments were actually received this year, so those were receivable at the end of the year. And the upcoming debenture that we have taken for the forced main, that is to be received in October of 2025. So those expenses were majorly outlaid in 2024, and then they're being recovered in 2025. So like I said, lots of timing differences there. In general, still doing very much on par with what we have in prior years. 2024 year-to-date at $326,000 of grant or investment income was outstanding, but we had a large cash balance and we had very good interest rates that we haven't seen in a number of years. The remainder of the expenditures are on par with budget. So if you can look, the amount that we've spent in July 31st is about half of what the total budget is and is about half of what the 2024 is. So very comparable to prior years. On the council side, that's the next one on the first page. Couple items to note here, very small, but I feel like council might be interested. So you can see we had a budget of $0 for other income and we've received $525. 500 of this was from the County of Minburn for the Family Day Breakfast, and there was a $25 sale of an ornament that was coded to this account. So that's what those 2 items are. And an ornament, yes. There was a purple case ornament. Maybe it belonged to council, and that's why it got coded to your revenue, but that's what that is. So you guys got some ornament revenue this year. Normally that goes through visitor information, but maybe it was one that was devoted to council and we gifted maybe for our sister village in Ukraine. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that one's for, but just thought I would note. Oh, maybe that. Maybe that's it. Yeah. So that's why we put that there. Yes. And then the remainder is on par with budget. As you can see, the expenses to date are half or less than the total budget. On to the next page, we have community engagement and economic development. You can see that there is a budget variance of $90,000 in government transfers. This is the wayfinding grant. So it was not budgeted, but it was planned to go ahead with if we received the grant, so we just didn't include it in the budget, and now full steam ahead with the wayfinding signage project. If you have been through Manager Browning's office lately, he has multiple signs up for display purposes. So those are, I'm sure we'll have an update on those in the coming months, and the remainder of their expenditures and revenue are on par with budget. Community services, there's not much left in community services. What we have in here is the cost for the fireworks, the cost to our grants to local organization, including Prairie Tales, VTSS. I know I'm missing a few of those. Those have all been paid to date with the exception of the one budget item that we had for Crossroads in the event that the county of Minburn didn't get the full grant. So that $20,000 has not been spent, and I don't have an update for council on whether that is going to be paid out or not this year, depending on the grant status. So that's community services. FCSS, this one's tricky for me because I don't have a lot of the info, but their variances are very much reviewed separately with the FCSS manager's variance analysis. You can see they've actually received quite a few government transfers already to date. But once again, with FCSS, sometimes they prepay the remainder of the year partway through. So I think we've received our grant funding for the year, and the rest of it is going to be incurred through expenditures. Library, I have a couple of items to note here. So government transfers, you can see we have none as of right now in 2025. There's $55,000 from the county of Minburn that has not yet been received. And then there's also a $52,000 transfer from operating reserve that's budgeted in the library budget this year that I have not transferred out. So I do a journal entry at the end of the year once they go over budget. I'm not going to book the transfer from reserve unless they actually spend the expenditure. So I'll book that entry to balance their budget at year end. So that's why that discrepancy is there. In the other income, they have a donation of Friends from the Library of $20,000. So that's their foundation account. So that hasn't been transferred in yet, but also they haven't spent the expenditures to require that transfer. So I have some meetings with NAO in the next week or so talking about getting him access to our Questica budgeting. So I'm hopeful that they will be on the ball with making sure they have their expenditures spent before December, as that has been a challenge before, wanting to get something in before December 31st and then not having ordered it in time. So it's a really good timing for me to discuss this with him and make sure that what they need to order is ordered prior to year end. Next, we have protective services. So there's not a lot going on here. This is like the safety and other items that aren't RCMP or municipal enforcement. So very much revenues and expenditures are on par with budget. The other revenue budget item of $5,000, that's a transfer from reserves in the event that they they're over budget. So that was to balance the budget to actual, but as of right now, those expenditures haven't been incurred, so I haven't booked that transfer. RCMP, so an annual budget variance of $345,664 is due to the pending receipt of the police officer grant. We almost always receive this in December of every year, so I'm not worried that we haven't received it yet, but it is showing as a variance as of right now. In contracted and general services, only one quarterly payment has been recorded in the general ledger as of July 31st. There's an additional payment of $297,206 that was processed in August, bringing the total of $531,101 year to date. It should also be noted that in the 2025 budget, a transfer from reserve, so that's income coming into the RCMP budget, of $367,097 is not listed on this report. When this adjustment is made, the annual budget reflects a deficit of 952,794 rather than the 1319891 shown on this page. So we actually brought in savings from the prior year with having vacancies in the positions. We brought that in as not to levy taxpayers for those savings that we received in prior year, so that we saved on our RCMP budget for this year. So that transfer has not been made yet, as we haven't gone over, but will likely be made because there's 2 more quarterly payments to be made. RCMP works from March until December, and the December one is always received in January of the next year. So that's the first quarterly payment that we always pay every year. But for audit purposes and accounting purposes, I have to book it into the prior year. So that's why we've paid 3 payments in 2025, but one of them was accrued from last year and 2 of them were for this year. So we have 2 more payments to make, likely only 1 more payment in 2025, but then the 2026 one that we pay in January, February will be accrued into this year's year end. So I know it seems odd that we've only paid 2, but we are on par with every other year with RCMP billings. So moving right along, fire. Annual government transfer variance is due to $412,174 received from the County of Minburn for the payment of the new fire truck. So that's in relation to our fire services agreement. We're each putting away $80,000 annually for equipment replacement. So of that, I believe there's about $96,000 that's still outstanding. We've received a $300,000 payment, and of that, $80,000 is going to be paid on January 1 of 2026, and then the remainder is like $12,000. So that is fully booked as a receivable on our end, and then that'll have to be a payable on their end if it's not paid by year end. There's also a $410,000 transfer from reserves for the town side that is not detailed here as it's capital in nature. This is countered by a total cost of $824,348 of the fire truck in capital expenditures. So the net revenue at the bottom on July 31st is $137,171. If you adjust the $412 out of it, because that revenue is related to capital, the actual deficit to date is $275, which is on par with the budget of $618 deficit. So fire is also doing very good when you're looking at expenditures to date. A lot of them are close to 50%. So the materials and goods are slightly higher than 50%, but that's because we like to procure a lot of the goods prior to year end. We don't like a lot of things coming in December. That stresses me out. We can also note the budget variance of $71,878 in other revenue. You can see we've received a significant amount of other revenue that wasn't budgeted. This is due to our deployment revenue. So this year is $60,000. Last year we received $120,504. So we had a huge fire season, and because deployment revenue does vary so significantly based on what is going on in the province, we've moved it to a separate income code so that we can track the deployment revenue and the deployment wages much easier than we have in the past, because it really sways our fire revenue and it makes it hard for us to budget wages and salaries and things for the new year. So that is why that one is higher this year, or lower this year than prior year. And there's also $10,000 in that AFRAX funding that Mitch was talking about earlier. So that's for the radios. Municipal enforcement revenues and expenditures are on par with budget. One thing to note is the additional ticketing revenue that we were talking about with our municipal enforcement updates that our CPOs are getting by doing traffic and other violation tickets in town. They get coded through our provincial payments into our RCMP revenue stream right now. So our manager of protective services and I are working to segregate the officers' revenue from these payments. They come as fines payments from the government, so we can increase, or we can reclass the fine revenue related to our CPOs out of policing and put it into municipal enforcement to show the additional work that they've been doing. But as of right now, you won't notice a huge increase in municipal enforcement revenues because the fines are under the policing side of thing. And just because policing is such a large budget, the additional, like, let's say an extra $20,000 in fine revenue isn't significant when we're going through that side of it. Please don't quote me on the 20,000, but it is our fines actual for the year is close to what our budget is. So in 6 months, we've already gotten our budgeted fines. So we are definitely getting more fines revenue than we have in the past. Okay, moving right along. Recreation, Parks and Culture. Annual variance in government transfers is largely due to the outstanding County of Minburn contribution for recreation. It was budgeted at $309,500, same as prior year, and we're settling the 2025 payment amount with the county currently. These amounts are normally paid in December, as the county's tax collection is, I believe, October 31st or sometime in October. So they always pay us a lot of these contributions after their taxes for the year are collected, which I think is fair. And then expenditures are on par with budget. Facilities, same thing, nothing large here to note here. Revenues and expenditures are on par with budget. Public Works, we have some exciting things here. So annual variance in government transfers is due to $258,760 of LGFF grant revenue recognized for the capital purchase of the rubber tire backhoe. That falls under capital, so it's not detailed in these expenditures, but the revenue side of thing is pulling through on this variance report. So that's skewing things a little bit. Additional capital not noted here also includes $93,500 for a skid steer paid out of operations. The remainder of revenues and expenditures are on par with budget. Utilities also has a capital purchase, so annual variance in government transfers is due to $470,278 of LGFF grant revenue recognized for the capital purchase of the sewer flushing truck, which falls under capital, so it's also not detailed in the expenditures here. Additional capital not noted also includes $19,799 for a televising unit and $36,835 for the bulk water station upgrades. So that's the new pin pads, swipe accounts, which were almost got fully functional, but September project. Both of those were paid out of operations, and the remainder of revenues and expenditures are on par with budget. Oh, I did an excellent job of just double copying and pasting a double R all the way through. I apologize. Municipal services, annual variance in government transfers is due to $474,802 of LGFF grant revenue recognized for the capital purchase of the recycling truck. So we had a very capital heavy, we had a recycling truck and the fire truck, which were ordered in prior years that came in, and then plus the sewer truck and all those other things also came in at the same time. So that was our 1 month of really tight cash flow. But we are doing great now. We've received our taxes. Back to the sewer truck, or the recycling truck. It's under capital, so it's not detailed in expenditures. They've also purchased under municipal services $23,303 for a hot seat, and the purchase of 2 half tons at $53,600 each, paid out of capital reserves. Note the 53 is just the base cost of the F-150s. There is also some additional costs that were in capital out of revenue for decking out the trucks. So we're talking lights, decaling, etc. Not significant though. And all of them were below the $60,000 budget that we had for the reserve for each truck. And the remainder of revenues and expenditures are on par. And then planning and development. So an annual variance in user fee and sales of goods is due to $375,149 of proceeds from land sales at Prosperity Park and 75th Street. So there's 2 lot sales in that amount. The other revenue includes business license revenue and development permits and is on par with prior year figures. And then contracted and general services expenditures are over budget. So this is the one that I was talking about, that we were only over on one of them to date. And that is due to legal and realtor fees that are not budgeted for in the land sales. So the proceeds of the sale always covers these costs, and we cannot necessarily budget these costs as they're unpredictable. So I could allocate, like, let's say $10,000 or $20,000 of expenditures, but then if we don't have any land sales, I also don't want to be levying taxpayers for expenses that we're not actually going to incur. We always do have proceeds that can cover those costs, and we just try and be fiscally responsible when we're working on a sale and not contacting legal or paying realtor fees unless a sale is pending and going through. So that's our way that we are responsible for those. And then the remainder of revenues and expenditures are on par with budget.
Thank you very much. Director Saskew, any questions or concerns? Councillor Bullock?
One, I just want to circle back to Public Works and the skid steer purchase. And 90,000 came out of operations, not capital?
Yes, so that is part of the capital budget, and we had $90,000 in operations. So I have the capital budget right here. I can circulate it around, but it was planned to come out of operations during our 2025 budget process.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing else? Thank you very much, Director Saskew.
Thank you.
We'll move on to CEO Ling, who will talk to us about the governance model.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the background on this is at the July and August Legislative Committee meetings, Council was given an opportunity to review the draft governance model for the town of Vegreville. In preparation for the upcoming election, administration has adapted Red Deer County's governance model document to reflect the town of Vegreville's council procedure bylaw and best practices. Municipalities are not required to have governance models. However, documenting this information ensures that everyone working in our organization has the same understanding how the system works, and our municipal government may continue to increase transparency with the public. With Council's approval, this document can be included in the 2025 candidate package and future council orientations. Administration has reviewed the document to capture Council's feedback to date. On communication strategy, this document will be communicated with a Level 1 public engagement process. Copies of the document will be made available on the Town of Vegreville's website through the 2025 election webpage and also be used as a tool during council orientation this fall. So the options before Town Council today are: they may review the proposed governance model and provide additional feedback to administration prior to discussing at the next legislative committee meeting, or Council may discuss the proposed governance model at today's legislative committee meeting and move forward with the approval at the next regular council meeting, or Council may defeat the governance model.
Thank you very much. Any comments, questions on this? I know this has been brought up once before already. Councillor Bullock?
Like I said before, it's a good document, and it'd be welcome to anybody that would be new coming on to council, and for anybody existing. It just lays it out. It's a quick reference, and I think it's just important everybody knows which lane they're in and proper way of going through, so we're not wasting each other's time.
I agree. All right. Thank you, CAO Ling. I guess I'll throw one more at you. We have a letter. It's under the mayor, but I'll have CAO Ling read it. From Mayor Jackie Clayton, City of Grand Prairie, regarding ACO Service Area 2025 electricity distribution.
All right, thank you. This letter is addressed Dear Chief Elected Official. It's regarding working together to address electricity distribution rates disparities. Unfair electricity distribution rates are one of the most pressing challenges facing those within the ATCO service area. I know you are well aware of this issue, and it is as pressing a matter for your community as it is for mine. We have been working diligently since we first discussed this issue together last fall, but I believe the time has come to grow our advocacy efforts. Our residents deserve coordinated action and our collective voices to effect change. The current system, facilitated through various service areas by different companies, with the costs isolated to each service area, has resulted in a cost disparity that hinders investment and seriously affects the region's affordability. Large geographical areas with fewer residents per kilometer of power line pay significantly more than urban areas. Only the provincial government can address this through legislation, something they have done for both Calgary and Edmonton residents. The ATCO service area has the highest rates in the province, averaging just over $1,300 per household in 2025 compared to $385 in urban areas. This also affects property taxes, as our municipalities must make up for much higher costs from distribution fees. Many of us have undertaken numerous advocacy approaches in attempts to have the province enact an equalization electricity delivery rate system across the province, recognizing the system's interconnectedness and the benefits of a connected system. We have received the support of local MLAs, regional partners, in addition to Alberta municipalities, rural municipalities of Alberta, and ATCO themselves, for changes that would lower prices. However, the government of Alberta has yet to act on the disparity. We know the ministers responsible understand the issues, but no solutions have been proposed. We are looking to change that by uniting all those who are greatly affected by it. We feel that the best way to address the issue is for those most significantly impacted to unite. The government of Alberta needs to act now to support our economies and communities. We ask that you continue to advocate for your local MLA, the appropriate ministers, and the Premier in your day-to-day advocacy efforts. If you need a draft letter to support your communication, please let us know. We have attached a 2-page backgrounder for your information. If we are unable to gain traction in this effort, we will consider future measures and advocacy tools. The time to find a solution to this debilitating issue is now, and I welcome your assistance in doing so. Should you have any further questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me at any time. Sincerely, Jackie Clayton, Mayor, City of Grand Prairie.
Thank you, CEO Ling. Any questions, comments? Councillor Varawa?
I might as well start just because I had already referenced this. Obviously, I would be in support of seeing the advocacy because I think that's the channel it would need to go to. So I don't think it's a surprise that I would be in favor of that.
Councillor Rudick?
Affordability is important. I guess I would be curious to know, has the mayor, I've talked to Mayor Clayton before, but I'm wondering if Mayor McPhee has spoken with Mayor Clayton from Grand Prairie about the specific issue, or is this follow-up to a letter that she sent out previously? Do we know?
I cannot speak for Mayor McPhee, I'm sorry.
Okay, because I guess the challenge always is, and of course, even in our conversations here today, ATCO is an incredibly important employer in our community. At the same time, we want to make sure that there's, we want to reduce the disparity in cost for households and for businesses that are accessing their utilities. So I guess it requires a little bit of a delicate conversation on our part as a community that is a large center for both ATCO Gas and ATCO Electric to be able to effectively advocate to the province and be able to ensure that the province is willing to do something that's within their power.
Councillor Varawa?
In that vein, actually, I would completely agree that maybe like if we could potentially have it for a future just discussion as to what we're wanting to advocate, because they're not actually asking us to sign on to their letter. It's not a resolution. I do think we have to advocate. It does not automatically have to be about advocating for the government to place a regulation on the provider. It can be about advocating to provide some additional support or funding to municipalities to address this issue. So maybe this is something that we could see what discussions the mayor's had and potentially have it for a bit of a discussion at one of our upcoming legislative, if everyone thought that would work.
Councillor Barry?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this, it's actually a difficult subject in a lot of ways, because to compare the cost of getting electricity moved out to a rural area compared to within a city, there's a lot of complexities there. And I think that's, I lived in the city for quite some time, and you've got a lot of population in a small area being fed quite cheaply if you get right down to in terms of distribution, compared to those great big lines you see overhead. They're taking it across country in order to service a small community. So I think we have to expect that we're going to pay more for power in the long run, So the advocacy is only to be trying to see if the provincial government wouldn't subsidize in some fashion, so that some of the cost that it takes to for distribution of power into rural areas is offset through the provincial government coffers. I think also we have to look at distribution when they're moving the power around into a lot of different areas so that people don't have blackouts and et cetera. It's a very complex situation of moving and supplying electricity across the entire province. And that's why I would want to make sure that we're not trying to say that we're being gouged by a particular company, because if they've got high distribution costs coming out to a rural area, they have to recover them. So I think it's, again, trying to get the provincial government to try and offset what it costs to deliver to a rural area. That's my opinion.
Councillor Roa.
I completely agree with you. It's about how and what we're advocating for. I don't think that there's any question to the fact that the longer and further out the lines go and the type of lines, it's going to be more expensive for sure. And so I don't think it is coming back on there, but it is trying to find that way to balance the fact that a lot of the things that are further out, a lot of people enjoy versus just the residents of the community. I know that was a discussion I sat in on one, it was a number of years ago. I think it was at one of our, I think they're called Alberta Munis at the time, but there was some discussion on how do we figure out what gets covered in what areas, and they were talking about the cost, say that it might go out to, say, a campground and how much it would cost somebody out there, and then thinking about who all uses it. So I think that would be really important, as you mentioned, to really be making sure that what we're talking about is there a way to subsidize without suggesting that it's just about whether it's being charged in the rate. So that's very good point.
Councillor Lemko.
Yeah, Your Worship, this is nothing new. This letter has crossed our paths before, maybe from a different source. And I don't disagree with the writer that something needs to be done, but I think it's important that we, rather than advocate alone, that we have a collaborated approach to how this should work. And maybe that's a meeting of the mayors, or in some way to draft up a how to lead this type of discussion as an advocacy. Because for me to go to talk to a MLA is probably blowing in the wind as compared to a collaborative approach from many municipalities at once. And maybe then the government can hear from a group of leaders versus one.
Councillor Bullock.
Well, back to your comments about no particular company gouging somebody, they're just all gouging everybody. So anyways, that's my personal feeling on it, but anyways, advocacy and talking about it obviously is a good thing to do. Yeah, sure, we should probably have a meeting about it, talk about it, see if we are willing to actually participate. If you're gonna go get it from the government, they're gonna take it out of somebody's pocket. It was probably the taxpayers anyway, so which area gets screwed the most?
Thank you very much. No comment from me on any of this. Okay, we'll see that coming to the council meeting as well. Next up is roundtable discussions. I think today we'll start with Councillor Barry.
Thank you. I was expecting that, and my response is, actually, I have nothing.
I did my whole move for that, and you had nothing. We'll just move down the line. Today we'll go Councillor Bullock next.
Well, probably, I don't know, you've probably all been hearing it. Everyone's getting the questions because the election's coming up. Are you running? Are you running? So to put a rest for everybody, I'm not running again, just so the whole community knows, and hopefully somebody who wants to put their name forth and wants to put a good effort in bettering their community really thinks about it and put your name up there.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Warawa.
obviously been away a little bit, so I have had a couple people reach out, and primarily, actually, it's just been about rural crime. And I just have kind of been reassuring, or I guess maybe it's not reassuring, I should say more having a conversation with them, just that we are aware there is multiple steps that get taken, both in vandalism and crime, but also that there sometimes is maybe a bit of a wrong perception that there's a lot of rising crime in Vegreville. I can assure them, just working for a very large area, there's rising crime happening in all the municipalities around, and in fact, some of the issues that are happening right in town for us, while it's impacting us because it's in our backyard, in some cases are actually on a much lower rate than some of our surrounding communities are seeing. So, I mean, we're still going to continue to push to access everything that we can to address this. You heard us talk earlier about, potentially more cameras, more ways. Again, encouraging people to report what they see, to report it, but do not put themselves in positions of danger by trying to address it themselves, but to recognize that this is a bit of an issue that is hitting everywhere due to a lot of issues, including affordability, of course, is one, as well as some of the increases that we're seeing in both mental health and addictions problems. So I just would want to say, because one person who reached out to me said, this is happening in Vegreville on a really large level. It's happening in multiple areas, and it's very serious, and we will continue to push to do what we can. But that's the only concerns I received.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rudick.
I brought up some of the questions or the feedback that I'd had about dog park, et cetera, but had a lot of buzz. I was not able to attend the egg and spoon race, but because of the wide audience that's received outside the community, I've had some requests from some other groups to look to partner with the town of Vegreville on future efforts, so I'll feed that to some of our staff, just because it's always exciting to be part of something that's moving and presenting the community in a positive light, and everybody's wanting to know, did we beat the record? How did we do? And I don't know that we've shared that loud and wide, so that's what I've heard.
Thank you very much. I'll speak a bit on that when it's my turn. Councillor Lemko.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, the question that comes up to me numerous times every day is what's happening with the corner lot on the Full Throttle site. Now, as council, we actually, I don't know personally. It's a question that council asked themselves. The developer has the permit to build and is apparently taking his time. Now, it'd be nice for us to give you the answers if we knew them, and that's like anything at Prosperity Park. We sell the land, and hopefully somebody puts a building up in a timely fashion. But they are business people, and they take their time at putting up their structures. It'd be like the question is asked, what's going on with McDonald's? I don't know the owner of McDonald's or the franchise itself, but apparently they're coming to town. When the shovel hit the ground, I don't know, but that's just how the business operates. Council, we don't know the answers to every question you have, but we certainly try and find out, and we get them to you when we know, you know. And we up here are in a waiting game as well. And that's business, and business takes time to work itself out. So bear with us. We try our best up here to get those answers, and once they come out, we'll relay that information to you.
Thank you, Councillor Lemko. For me, just I was at the Egg and Spoon World Record attempt on the weekend. It was a lot of people turned out. The answer to if we broke the record or not is we don't have the official results yet because we have to go through all the data. So we don't have that answer quite yet, but I'm sure it'll be coming soon. Lots of people came from all over the province for the event, but I do want to make a shout out to Beverly Verway, who came all the way from Newmarket, Ontario to race in our egg race. And I think she actually got the shirt off of Manager Brown's back to take back with her. He's mailing it to her. So that shows the spread of where this went. So it got to Ontario. So between all the different social media portions of it and people sharing and word of mouth, and then also we did some news coverage too. So I don't know, maybe Beverly turned on Edmonton Global instead of Ontario Global, I'm not sure, but thanks to her for coming out, making the flight to do the egg race. Yeah, that's all I have. So thank you everybody for everything you do. And we'll move on to director's highlights, and we'll start with Director Lefebvre.
Thank you, Worship. I have 3 items for today. The first one being the Forest Main Lift Station budget update, as that project is 99% complete. New Edge did come in and do the last landscaping and tidy up, so the last thing we have left to do is to do the walk valves, operate, make sure everything's on the up and up, and then the project will be completed. The project, including the tender, the contingency, engineering, and testing, was budgeted at 3.83 million, and at this point we're at 3.749 million, so we have about 80,000 remaining. About 70,000 in a couple of releases we'll have to do on the holdbacks. Contingency is about $3,000 left, so we're wrapping it up and gonna probably button it right on the numbers, so it's a good project. At a previous council meeting that I was not in attendance at, one of my action items was the museum signs on Alberta Transportation's Highway 16 markers, to have them removed. So the application has been made. Our local highway maintenance contract inspector is aware of it, and he's working towards having them removed shortly. So I'm imagining in the next week or so they'll be down, so that we can scratch off our list. The Subdivision and Development Authority Board search for a member. As you're aware, we have 2 members at large and a counselor that are on the board that are certified. One member of the at large is affected by a recent appeal and is unable to sit. So we don't have quorum. We need 3 for quorum. We have been pushing this out in our social media platforms very aggressively. We have advertised for over a month in the local newspaper, and we have got 0. We have nobody. Our window of opportunity for the free training that's provided to become an SDAB member is September, which we're into now. And I think we need to think about the option that our SDAB bylaw states that any member that sits on the board be appointed by council. We have the ability to go through the Land and Property Rights Tribunal, who have certified registered members across the province, and they would attend by Zoom or Teams, and the council would have to appoint another member, at least one, so we have quorum, and then we could move forward with the actual hearing. Right now, we've got it set at the previous meeting we had, which was so that one member could recluse himself of the meeting because of a conflict. And factoring that we would do the training in September, give us 2 weeks to organize a meeting, got us to November 3rd as our hearing date. At this point, as we hit September with our training with no interest, council has an option to use the tribunal and get somebody in, and we can get this done with sooner, or at worst, do it in a way that we maintain our November 3rd hearing date. The town does have an obligation, or the SDBA has an obligation to process these in a timely fashion. I understand that we're under some difficulty as we move forward without an actual board, but council needs to know that there is an option that we can use to maintain this November 3rd for this one hearing, or if we wanted to do it sooner, we could approach it sooner.
Thank you very much, Director Lefebvre. Any comments or questions? I know we would much prefer to have a local member on the board, but barring stopping everything in its tracks, we may need to look at other options for this, so.
So what I may do, oh, sorry, go ahead with the conversation. What I was thinking of just process is we have already reached out to the tribunal, the Land and Property Rights Tribunal, to say, throw it out there and see if we have some interest, someone that would, and there will be likely because it's easy, it's teams. And if that's the case, then we can have, more after this discussion, then we can have that appointment, if you will, or approval of council at this next council meeting, or even the next one still gives us time if we want to just move towards the November 3rd. If we want it done sooner, then we can make it happen sooner. So those are what we are moving forward towards. Sorry, Councilor Rudick.
I was just going to say, can you remind us again, the training date takes place in October, you said?
September.
September, sorry, so right away.
Yes, I'm under the impression that the training is September. Is our September training on October, gives them time for, I don't know, results, something, organize a meeting, and then
Yeah.
we'd agreed to give ourselves an extra week of grace, making it the November 3rd as the hearing date.
Okay, because I will reach out again to somebody that had indicated that they were potentially interested in that training, but as somebody who sits on that board on behalf of council, I do feel like it's the training that is provided by the Land and Property Rights Tribunal across the province. The training that I just took is people from across the province that are taking the same training all at one time. So while it's preferable to have somebody from town of Vegreville, it is certainly important to be able to move ahead with these hearings. They don't happen often, but we want to make sure that we're responsive to the community in a way that's going to be productive for everybody. So we'll look forward to hearing your update, and maybe helpful to know if there's a timeline, like if there's somebody that's appropriate, even if they'd be able to get their name in time, because we need to refer them, approve them as council, and get the training paid for. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the training at end of September through this is free training. It's that once a year free opportunity. Otherwise, there will be, I believe it's around $1,300 a person for training after that per person.
Okay, so that would be helpful, even just to be able to maybe encourage people, that anybody here too that might think of somebody, a member of the public that might be appropriate, because we definitely, we've referenced a few times changing the guidelines for FCSS board members, for example, et cetera. It's not easy to find somebody that's willing to sit on these kind of boards, so we want to make sure that we've got some talented people ready in the wings to be able to do this too.
So yeah, as an open discussion at our ledge meetings, and that's what they're for, am I coming back on Monday with council going to appoint a member, or are we going to reach out and go to people we're aware of in the community in the next 2 weeks to see if there's like a real push? We have been talking to people we know and people in different groups that would be a fit, and it's not happening. But we're getting to the point where we need to make a decision, because we have always had an option to pick someone from the tribunal to get this going. And we have elected to go this route with the November 3rd date.
Councillor Lemko first, and then we'll move on.
I think that makes it quite clear. I think we're at the point where we need to go to the tribunal to move this forward. And then once the tribunal is responded with the possibility of doing the hearing, then we can still continue to look for a local representative. But I think we're at the point now where we've researched and nobody's come forward. So I'm suggesting we go to the tribunal right for now.
Councillor Warawa.
Sure. So for me, I'm not interested in seeing us move up the date of the actual. I think it's fine for that date to remain the same. I don't disagree with us going ahead and reaching out to someone from the tribunal. The only thing is you're quite confident, it seems, that we would be able to get somebody. They don't need to be certified or trained. So likely if we reached out to...
They are certified.
Sorry, they are. I mean, so we wouldn't need to recertify them in any way. So only because of that, I think we have the luxury of, in my opinion, having 2 extra weeks to see if we can find somebody local. Only for that reason, I'd be in favor of waiting the 2 extra weeks and each of us reaching out to see if we think that there is somebody. But either way, the main one for me is I don't want us to move it up. I'm happy it's staying on the November 3rd.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Director Lefebvre? No. We will move on. Thank you, Director Lefebvre. To Director Saskew.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I have here my corporate services highlights. So our force main debenture, as I mentioned earlier, we have submitted the application for the force main. This debenture will be in the amount of $1,363,951, and it will be paid on October 31st, 2025. So August 15th deadline pays at the end of September. And since that was our last council meeting, there was a couple of things that we wrapped up after the fact. So we've submitted for the September 15th deadline, which is paying out on October 31st. As I had noted, we will take it out for 20 years as per discussions with council at our last ledge meeting. And our first loan payment will not be due until 2026. So because we're taking it in October, our first payment will likely be that March, April. And we will budget for those payments in the 2026 operating budget. I also have a couple other items. So we're continuing our detailed IT review for the Microsoft 11 update coming in October. It's requiring our department to inventory the computers and determine which computers are available for upgrades, and then sourcing computers for ones that will not be available to be updated. This is a large and important project, and we are hoping to ensure no one has service disruptions. So we're going through that today. We actually had one of my staff members going out and starting this inventory, including where all the computers are, including if they're in someone's drawer or if they're in use or not. So this will also help us with our IT services, as we do pay, so to say, a standby fee for each computer that is on our network and serviced by our IT providers. So in the event that we note that a computer is someone's spare in their drawer, isn't compatible for a Windows 11 upgrade, or maybe it is, but they're not really using it, that's one that we might be able to repurpose for someone that might not have a computer that is eligible for upgrades. So as of right now, it's still very much in the air, but we are taking steps to ensure this doesn't disturb or disrupt any of our staff at the end of October. We're also been in contact with R&R Symphony relating to the demo for that ERP program. As Diamond is coming to end of life, we want to make sure we're exploring all our options before we actually have to budget the amount in to our program. So we have, I think, end of 2028 is when we have to be fully switched by. So seems like a lot of time, but it really isn't, because after that date, we will not be able to pay payroll from our system. So we have to be switched by the end of 2028. So it's a 2-3 year project. Sometimes it takes over a year to implement a full service program. And other than that, the demo, we have done all the legwork to give them the info on our side that they need, and we're hoping to have the program in our hand in the coming weeks. And budget 2026 is still underway, so we've spent time working through preliminary budget, having meetings with managers, and we're scheduled for our September 30th manager meetings with council. And that's all I got.
Thank you very much, Director Saskew. Any questions on the budget? Councillor Worrell.
Your Worship, I'm just wondering if, just circling back one above, if we actually did provide the clarity to Director Lefebvre. I think we maybe gave him which direction to go, because I think he was asking whether he should go ahead and immediately bring back a name next week, unless I'm wrong. But I think he was asking that, and I think we gave him one way and another way. And I'm just wondering if he has the clarity he requires.
What I got out of it was that we would keep the November 3rd timeline and give it 2 weeks to see if we can find a local member. If not, we go to the tribunal to have council appoint one. You're right, it wasn't, I'm getting good at reading you guys, so I figured that's where we were.
I just realized that I'm like, oh, I think two of us told you, but not the same thing.
No, good clarification there. Thank you. And your question for Megan? No?
I'll leave it.
Sorry, Director Saskew. All right, thank you very much. And we'll move on to CAO highlights. CAO Ling.
Thank you, Your Worship. So a few highlights since the last legislative meeting. OH&S, the provincial OH&S, has been directed by the government of Alberta to inspect towns and villages. So we have had our introductory meeting and our first inspection, which was the Parks Department and the facility, and all went well. We're just waiting for the report and the schedule of the next visit. So the explanation we were given is that a lot of OH&S spends a lot of time in the large urban areas because there's so much going on. That's where they get the incidences and gets called to, but the government of Alberta is pushed out and wants them to check in on villages and towns, so we will be seeing them around. I worked the registration for the world's largest egg and spoon race on Saturday, and yes, the couple from Ontario. But overhearing registrants talking as they're giving their name and getting their race bib, there was a gentleman who was saying that he was talking to his friend in Switzerland about taking part of this, and ended up sending him like copies of our social media posts and everything through their conversation. He thought it was really cool. But yes, so we actually got a lot of coverage on this race. So, and yes, as Councillor Curtis, or sorry, Deputy Mayor Curtis said, the race went well, and we are just waiting on the official results. The arena ice is in, and the first hockey camp will start this weekend. The pool shutdown has gone well, and they are currently filling the pool as we speak. So hopefully it'll be all filled and ready to go. And the spray park. They're looking at the spray park closure for being around the end of September, weather permitting. So that's when we'll be looking at closing that facility. And that's all I got.
Thank you very much. When is the spray park closing?
Hopefully they can keep it open till the end of September. If the weather gets cooler, they may have to. One of the things with the spray park is because it's a recirculating system, we have to be very careful that we don't have it operational when the ground starts to freeze.
For sure. I just feel like I remember seeing it on our website that it closes on September 1st. And that may need to be updated if we're gonna, I've definitely seen Spray Park is open, or until August 30th then, or 31st.
Okay, I will look into that.
Just to make sure nobody thinks it's closed when it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for CAO Ling? All right. We do have some upcoming events. I don't have too much information, I guess, on times and where, but there is a voter link assistance session coming up. I believe it's at the library. This will help folks to get signed up so that they can vote in the upcoming municipal election. It's on September 4th.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure. I don't have any answers, but you can ask a question.
I'm going to direct it to CAO Link. So I did see this on our social media that this was shared, and so I had a few questions from people asking about why they need to register to vote. And I think the clarification is, and maybe I'll let you say it, who is this intended for?
Okay, the changes that came out in Bill 50, no. One of the numerous bills that came out from the Minister of Municipal Affairs has changed, has made changes to the Local Authority Election Act, the LAEA. And one of those things is voter lists. That all municipalities, we've never had a voter list before. You've always been able to walk into the voting booth with your driver's, like some form of ID, driver's license, passport or whatever, and a utility bill in your name that proves you live in Vegreville. They've changed all of that now, and now you have to be on a voters list. And the easiest way to do that is to use the provincial, like the Alberta elections voter list. So for those who have registered to vote in the provincial election or in the previous provincial election, got a card in the mail that said, and keep in mind, the Alberta election, not the federal one, because Election Canada is separate. So if you got a voter's card in the mail when we had the provincial election, you are registered. It's very quick and it's easy to go online to Alberta Elections and click on the register, are you registered or register to vote link. And basically you give them your surname, you give them your birthday, you give them part of your address, and they check to see if they have something that pops up for you, then they'll say, yes, you're registered. If they don't have any information on you, then they ask you to fill it out. They don't take a lot of information from you. And once you're registered, then you would go on the voters list, and we will be given a copy for our municipality from the Elections Alberta. And that is what is going to determine how much paperwork you have to do at the poll station when it comes to voting. You won't be denied to vote if you're not registered, but it's just going to make that process a whole lot easier for you. So on the library, they're going to be having a voter link assistant session, and what that is to help register you. For example, senior citizens who don't necessarily use computers all the time or don't have one and want to come in and register, hence why we're doing it at the library, because they have the computers there. So come in, we'll input your, there'll be staff and volunteers there to help you input your information, and then you'll be registered for the for voter link. It's from 11 to 3 at the library on Thursday, September 4th. And we have to have, ideally, we'd like everybody registered, because we are going to get that list. We have to have it in by the 15th? Yes, by September 15th, in order for them to create the list and send it our way. So again, it's just to make it easier the day of voting. Because if you're not registered, then there's a lot more, and that information's on the website, and we'll send more of that information out as we get closer and closer to voting day.
Thank you very much. Another thing coming up is Vegreville Transportation and Services Society is unveiling their new van and also a second driver. And that'll be Friday, September 5th from 11 to 1:30 at the Sunshine Club. Also have a town council meeting on September 8th. Fall Community Information Night is on September 10th. We have another Ledge meeting on the 16th, and then nomination day closes September 22nd at noon. And again, Councillor Bullock had mentioned about people that want to run for council to put your name in. All the information is on the website as well. And I think that's it. We have no closed session items. So is there any more business of council? Seeing none, take a motion to close the meeting. Councillor Barry makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Meeting adjourned at 5:08.